99 cents an hour in 2008, so it's probably closer to 25 right now. So you do provide quite a bit of service to the campaign, and they really need that service. It's basically, to a certain point, it doesn't have to be claimed as a campaign contribution, but you are very valuable. If they had to replace your volunteerism, that's approximately what it would cost for the same type of expertise. Volunteer positions. Most campaigns already have a campaign manager, but there's a number of other positions that need to be filled. And you don't really need to know politics to be a good scheduler. You need to be a good organizer. You need to keep people going out the door, getting in front of people. Event planning, very important. Who your candidate's going to talk to, what they're going to talk about, where they're going to go. Opposition research, paparazzi, basically follow the opposition with your video camera, and we'll talk about that. Volunteer coordinator, very important position, but it's a good people manager, a good project manager that likes people, generally can do a pretty good job as a volunteer coordinator. Coalition building, that's huge, and very little of it's done in California that I've seen. If you're in an office, you're buying new coalitions, but building coalitions means you're going to go out and talk to people with like minds from different groups. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Voter identification, where your votes are, who your votes are, how to find your votes, how to get them to the poll, very important. And then your get out the vote person. That person's got to be a juggernaut. The person's got to be able to motivate people to get them to the polls and organize like you're basically a lift master on a cargo plane. You put people in, pull people out, and get them where they need to be. This is what a simple campaign organization looks like. Your finance committee basically on the left, volunteers, press secretary on the right, and all the rest of the organization there. The candidate, of course, is top of the committee. Very simple, they can be very complex. Campaign manager, primary contact for the candidate. If you're working as a campaign manager, it's your job basically to keep people away from the candidate and filter everything through you. It's very important that the candidate, he's going to be working with a lot of people other than the campaign organization for a lot of, during the campaign quite a bit, but so it's you as a campaign manager, it's very important that they trust your opinion, they trust your decisions, and they allow you to function in that position. Campaign manager is the only person in the organization usually that talks to the media, and that's to refer people to the press secretary whose responsibility that is. Between the campaign manager and the scheduler, if you see your candidate, he's not talking to somebody else, he's not out there doing his job, so you want to keep him out the door. Candidate's first job, number one, is to raise funds, because you have to be able to get your message to the public. That means you have to raise money to do it. Second job is to meet the public and ask for their vote. Conservatives are terrible. We're terrible about asking for money. We're independent, we're self-sufficient, and we can do anything but ask for money to get elected. So I'm encouraging candidates to ask for money and to, the second time again, is meeting people and get in front of individuals and ask them to help. This is what the scheduler does, basically get you anywhere they can think of putting you where people gather. So it's campaign events, media events, fundraising events, meetings with groups. You can easily get in front of doesn't really matter, Rotary Club. It's a business association. Fairs, flea markets are great places. If you can set up debates, that's wonderful. And precinct walking, the candidate needs to get out and be visible in the street. Very important. Scheduler only does the schedule. This person pretty much keeps the candidate moving forward. Nobody else can do it because if it gets confusing fast. Give basically accurate and complete directions when you're sending somebody out or you're sending the candidate out. And don't schedule your events too far in advance. If you schedule them too far in advance, you can't take advantage of breaking things that are going on, or you need to reschedule because this is actually slightly more important than that is, so it's very important. And also don't be afraid of the word detail, and also make sure that whatever requests you do get, you have them put them in writing and get them to you. So if there's any question about whether the candidate was asked or whether the candidate was supposed to be someplace, you've got it in writing. Event planner, scheduler, basically the event planner is finding these events, campaign events, media events, fundraising events, groups, television production. You've got to get the candidate out there to make their radio and television. They have to be part of that process. Get free precinct walking. Where we're going. Opposition research, I love this. I love opposition research. You'd be amazed what you can find thanks to the internet on what's happening. You can pretty much find anything on a political candidate. Now, I love the one up here. Everybody remember who this is? Richard Blumenthal, Connecticut's running for the Senate. He was an Attorney General of Connecticut. He ran 6 times before somebody did any research on him. He lied 6 times and got elected 6 times before they said, wait a minute, you never were in Vietnam. They should have caught him on the first time. So, what you want to do during your opposition research is you want to know what your opposition has done. So if they're in the legislature, they're in an elected position, you want to find out if they sponsored any bills, which ones they were, which ones they voted on, how they voted, see if there's any trending or if there's any indication of how these people like to do business. If they've got a business, you want to, sweet lawsuits. You want to find out what their reputation is, if they've got tax problems, legal problems, are they good business people, are they bad business people? Personal life, if it makes the paper, it's fair game. You may decide not to use it, but you need to know about it, because it's always that neighbor next door is the one that can fill you in. So you've got information on their personal life if you need it. The media, you want to go through whatever media is at their location to find out what, if they've got any articles on them, if they've written any articles, if they've had any articles written about them. Have they been in the newspaper? Have they been on YouTube? Download what you find. You'd be amazed how people sanitize this information when it gets closer and closer to the election. Also, you want to look at their campaign website. A lot of people think their opposition won't read it, but your opposition should read it every day and look for changes. So if you want to index their site and save it for future reference, you might have to point something out to somebody. Oh, yeah, okay, you can send those around. Yeah, I just wanted to mention again, I mentioned earlier that we're going to, if you want more information as time goes on, we're going to send around a place to sign up, and I'll send you emails as things move forward and as campaigns move forward, or if you have any questions, you can contact me and I can contact you back. Media, I just mentioned that. Money, you want to follow the money. You'd be amazed where you can go with campaign finance, and it's not just who gave it to the candidate, because you can find out a lot about who gave it to the candidate. It's where they spent the money, who they gave it to, who they gave it to in their campaign staff, who is their campaign staff, who is their campaign staff worked for, what's their reputation. I used to love it. Before we had the internet, we had books, and people that won election loved to write books. And if you could get their books, you knew what they're going to do the next 15 times, because all people are people who have it. So anything you can find out about who the consultants are, who their staff is, that can work to your advantage. So those are just some things you can do as far as opposition research is concerned. Paparazzi, I love paparazzi. That's the person with the camera. That's the one that goes out and basically says, Pete, what are you doing today? But you have to, if you're going to be paparazzi, you have to do it so the media can use it. And basically it's like it said over here, notice it's on a tripod, notice it's fixed, he's not zooming in and out, he's not panning side to side. If it's bouncing, the media won't use it regardless of how good it is. Now if the sound isn't real good, if you can hear the candidate and you can't hear the question, that's fine. You can always, and you've seen them do it, they put the graphic on the bottom of the picture, so you hear the question and then you see the response. So that's very important. And if you have questions, write them down. If you're actually going to go out and film a candidate responding to questions and you've got somebody in the audience to ask interesting questions, don't have them stand next to you, have them stand over to the side and ask their questions and see where things go from there. Save the tape. I don't recommend you put it on the internet right after the filming. Save it because it may make a valuable commercial later in the campaign. Asking for help. As I mentioned earlier, conservatives are terrible at it. As far as volunteering, if you're a volunteer coordinator, anybody that shows an interest, you need to get their name and number and call back. And what you want to do is you want to give them a reason for being there. We don't need you for the rest of your life. Can you be there Tuesday for an hour, for a half hour, for 45 minutes? That's very important, that there's some kind of parameters that people can put their life and their time into. Oops. No problem. Also, it's interesting, a lot of campaign organizations, if you're good at your job, they want to keep you around. So you may find